This content is brought to you by Westlund Incorporated, helping you create a vision for your life. Well, hello, I'm your host, Kim Westlund, and thank you for joining Create Your Vision podcast. Jayda Smith is joining me today, and we're talking about how to be your own trendsetter and how to build creativity into your business and basically stand out from the crowd. Jayda is an entrepreneur, founder of Ecclesia, the studio, and she's also a Red Seal hairstylist. She's also my daughter. So we have very interesting conversations away from the microphones. And we thought it would be great to share sometimes what we discuss with the broader audience. Jayda's also going to be a regular contributor here. So I'm excited to see where these conversations take us. So Jayda, happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I love being on this podcast.
Oh, that's great. Well, this is a topic that comes up a lot, I find, in our home because we're both business owners. We're both very creative thinkers, and we both have really big visions and goals for our lives. So seeing things through our different perspectives and even our different generations that we come from also makes for really interesting conversations. And wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
So the reason I wanted to have this conversation with you is because I think a lot of people are struggling with trying to find their own unique path while still kind of following and getting lost in the crowd, so to speak. And as business owners, what most of us are trying to do is to find our own path and be true to who we are. And we want to reflect that in what we do and what we offer to others. But it's so easy to go with the flow and to just conform to what's the norm out there. So I don't know if you have any initial thoughts right out of the gate on that.
I'm so excited that we're having this conversation because my brand really focuses a lot on that. Ecclesia, for those of you who may not know, it's actually a biblical word that talks about, essentially it means the called out ones, or in some translations refers to the church, and not as a building, but as a people. And so that's where that name of the business came up. But the studio is the very much art side of it. And the best way that I describe, honestly, my brand to people is fusing art and faith in a way where we're pushing the limits and boundaries on creativity, but we're incorporating that faith aspect. So whether that be through courses encouraging other people to push their creative limits, in-person classes on creativity, even sometimes Bible studies, and just fusing the two worlds together, because I feel like there's a bit of a open gap in faith and art combined, and how creativity and faith come together in such a cool way.
Well, and that's partly what we're talking about today. And so I want to talk about trends, because every time I turn around, there seems to be a new trend. Could be in fashion, could be trending songs. I know when I post stuff on Instagram, you're like, okay, you need to hook it up to a trending song. And I don't fully, sometimes I get lost in all of the stuff trending. Even strategies, there's trending strategies out there. Right? It's the latest book, the latest, the way of doing things. And so I would like to dive into what we love and what we don't love about trends. So firstly, what's the appeal to follow a trend as a business owner? From your perspective, what is that?
Well, kind of like what you were saying, even about the trending audios and that sort of thing. I find specifically trends, something that I love about it is social media utilization. So it's a fantastic tool to be used specifically on social media. So like I said, the trending audios, phenomenal. Like when you're trying to get content out there and you're trying to get your brand seen by other people, and you're trying to get more eyes on what you're doing, it's a powerful tool because it's such a popular, whatever it is, popular song, popular trend that's going around. when you link your brand to that, there's so much more. Like, I have gotten insane traffic on social media from simply just using a trending audio. So it's a very powerful tool that, quite honestly, a few years ago, like, wasn't even a thing. Like,
Mhm.
even the algorithm with social media has changed so much that now trends are, honestly, most business owners I can probably safely say would say it's essential to hop on trending audios, hop on um just funny dance trends or funny, like, all that stuff. It's crazy how much recognition your brand can get, even if you're trying to combine, like, if the audio doesn't necessarily fit your brand, it's there's ways to do it that you can really get seen by a lot of people that you wouldn't normally get seen by.
So, okay, so I hear what you're saying with trending audios. So
Yeah.
as a business owner, the appeal to follow some of these trends is exposure, is what I'm hearing you
Yeah.
say. It's to open yourself to a broader audience, to
Mhm.
find ways to to expand, really.
Yeah.
Is there any other appeal as a business owner? What, like, how, because that's audio, but what other
Yeah.
trends? Like, there's also a whole bunch of other ones out there.
Well, one of to name one specifically, one of my actual favorite things about social media and the pivot that it's taken, and one of my favorite trends that I can't see going away anytime soon, and I hope it doesn't go away anytime soon, is the desire for faces and actual people behind brands and not just companies on social media. Like, I grew up in an era where it was all about brand name and it wasn't so much about the person. It was about, oh, you're
Mhm.
wearing like Gucci or Prada, or like, it was the brand name, the label meant everything. And now there's a massive trend of people wanting to see the human side behind the brand. They want to see, like, for
Right.
example, on TikTok, just funny, like, sandwich shops, ice cream shops, like, hopping on these funny trends where you see the employees, you see, like, it showcases the people in a really awesome way. I love that
Mhm.
because, especially, like I said, my brand is very heavily focused on that, but I like to see that element of that human side, that not so perfect, the not so curated, not everything has to be professional photos. Like, I love seeing this shift in
Yep.
people being more organic and just themselves, and people want to hop on and purchase things from them because they just like the people behind it. And I think it's a really, really cool thing.
Yeah, well, and I can relate to that because I'm a little older, clearly. I'm of a different generation. So for me, I've seen the trends of many years ago, which is what you just described.
Yeah.
So a little more reserved, you're not seeing the person behind the business. So I appreciate that change for my generation. It's a little bit of an adjustment to be vulnerable and follow those trends online, and to kind of, like, pick and choose what fits for my company, to show
Mhm.
who I really am as a business owner. I think it's an interesting place to be. But can I ask, what do you not love about trends? I think because there's the flip side of this. Like, there's
Mhm.
obviously advantages, or people wouldn't follow trends. But
Yeah.
what is it that is maybe even dangerous about trends?
It's funny. I never want to come across, I'm a very optimistic person. I never want to come across pessimistic, but I have to say, when it comes down to the conversation of trends, I dislike them more than I like them. Because, again, the shift that we've had in the past few years, um, I just remember, and it, honestly, if we haven't noticed, it comes down to social media, and the power of social media is where these trends are, honestly, just the birthplace of these ongoing trends. But I remember, even when I was like early teenager, like, YouTube was first becoming a thing, Instagram was really brand new, Snapchat was just coming out, like, the TikTok wasn't around. Like, I remember trends then, and Pinterest was like still in its early stages, but I remember trends then being so different than they are now. And unfortunately, I personally feel they've taken a turn for the worse, because I feel for myself that I used to go on Pinterest and YouTube and all that stuff and Instagram, and you'd get really cool inspiration, right? There was trends that would happen, fashion trends that would happen, and people would kind of take, inspiration here but make it their own. What I feel is happening now is, if you're not on that trend, you're not as, like, not necessarily as valuable, but people now,
Maybe
if you're not
relevant is relevant the word?
irrelevant, like, nobody really, you look at somebody and go, "Oh, you're not dressed like," I we'll see if you know what I'm talking about, but there's like the clean girl aesthetic. There's the, oh my gosh, somebody was telling me this the other day, and I'm like, I literally don't even know what that is. That's like, it's so new, it's changing all the time. But there's so many different like aesthetics out there for girls. So like clean girls, very like no makeup, very glossy skin, very, and if you don't look like that, you're not on trend. Or like you said, business strategies. And
Well,
my
could you get
biggest,
lost down that rabbit hole of
well,
just what are the trends and spend more time
yeah.
chasing trends than focusing on other things?
If I could generalize it into one kind of term, or one major issue that I have with trends, is it becomes people's entire personality, and we lack originality and individuality. Where's like the creativity, the individuality? Like, where's the expression of who you are? And not just
Yeah.
because, yeah, it's a great brand and it's trending, that doesn't mean that you need to become that thing, right? It doesn't need to be your entire personality. And I just
Yeah.
feel like we lose a lot of personality.
Yeah. I think what's interesting sometimes is we see so many people chasing trends to be different, to stand out. And what ends up happening is they all end up kind of being similar in the process, which is the exact opposite of what the intention was.
Yeah.
That's what I see, just
Yep.
taking a step back. And so you're right. The individuality is really what at the heart of everybody is what we're all kind of desiring, because we are all individuals. We are not lookalikes.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be different. So there is something in that. How do you become your own trendsetter? And I guess really when you think about it, to become your own trendsetter is about embracing you. It's embracing that individuality that
Yeah.
you have. How do you do that? What do you think?
I mean, there's kind of a surface level. I feel there's a surface level way to do that, and then there's a deeper way to do that. For me, something I love to do is, I'm somebody, I love reflecting that in clothing and style, and even how I design my brand, and things change all the time. But I I find if I take some time away from social media and just kind of get into, and I think, okay, aside from other people's opinions, aside from what everyone else is doing, what can I do that I genuinely enjoy? Not because that's what I'm supposed to go do. What is something that I really like? What is, or another thing I will do is I'll go through social media intentionally and go, okay, I'm looking for inspiration. I'm not looking to become somebody else. What, like, sometimes I'll go through Pinterest, and I've done this even with finding my own art style, because that's a huge
Mhm.
conversation among artists, is how do you find your own personal style when it comes down to art? Because it is so easy to copy and paste, and just copy someone else's art. But what I love is my own personal style is a fusion of tons of different styles. And one of my favorite, like, very practical things that I like to do when it just comes down to finding my own style, whether it be for brand clothing, whatever, is I'll go on Pinterest or Google or whatever, and I'll just kind of start scrolling through different, like, whether it's posters, like I just save things that I'm like, I really like that. I may not know why I like that, but I create a massive board of things that I'm like, I just really like that element. I like that element. I like that element. And then when I put all of them together, I'm kind of like, okay, my style, I can start to see there's a pattern forming. And then when you go to create something, you notice it's starting to flow into your own personal style. And I
Yeah.
just think, yeah, like I just feel like,
I
oh,
like what you said about going online with intentionality,
yeah,
because this is where, from my perspective, I can get lost, and I have gotten
hmm,
lost at times. If I mean, my business is online, who I connect with is online, so we have to be online to
yeah,
some degree. But the scrolling and the finding inspiration can really get muddy
yeah,
if we're not intentional. So when you said intention, like, why you're searching for something. There's a reason, there's a very focused
yeah,
application you're looking for, or what you're looking for. Where I find sometimes the danger is just scrolling for scrolling's sake, where we're trying to find our identity, or we're trying
yes,
to find something that we want to follow or chase.
yeah.
And that's a slippery slope. I don't know, would you agree with that?
Well, I would say even with being your own trendsetter, um, I would argue that starts before you even go on social media.
Correct,
Because
yes.
you when I go on social media, my goal is to take away things to help develop my style and figure out how I want to present myself and things that feel like who I already am. And it's an accurate reflection of what I'm trying to portray. And
Right.
that's what I'm looking to do through social media, not let's create a new personality. And that's kind of what I was mentioning about what I dislike about trends is people, I've seen videos of girls throwing away their entire wardrobe because that's not trendy, even though they feel confident in it, they feel beautiful in it, that's just they feel like themselves, but because a different trend is in style, they just abandon everything and jump on that. And then all of a sudden we have a bunch of people who don't know who they are because they tried to find it on social media. I think the
Exactly.
worst thing you can do is to go on social media to try and find yourself. It's a great tool to gather inspiration, but you gotta have some kind of foundation of who you are before you start looking to build your brand identity, before you start trying to portray your own voice.
Yeah.
Make sure that you have some kind of idea of who you are, what you like. And oftentimes, I like gathering my creative inspiration offline. I'm just talking about Pinterest boards when I am online. I find when I go out to certain coffee shops, like places that I just always go to, if I'm lacking creative inspiration, if I'm lacking um, things that just I feel stuck in a rut and I'm like, "Oh, I just need to do something that just jogs my creativity. It brings me back to what feels like me." For me,
Yeah.
I'm a very environmentally stimulated person, like where I am and my environment really really affects me. So I find um going to certain places that I always know I leave inspired, creative, that's huge for me, and that's completely offline, and
Mhm.
it's refreshing and it always fills my cup. And for some people it's being around certain people that get them super,
Yeah.
like that just grounds them. For some people it's like I'll pull out watercolors and just an art sketchbook and go to town and try different color palettes, figure out, what I like, what I don't like. And
Yeah.
I think it's important to do some of that offline.
You don't always have to find inspiration online. And I think
Yeah.
so many times that's just a default go to. Oh, well, I'll just go online and I'll search up this, this, and this. And the problem is there's so much noise that it's hard to kind of even cut through the noise and even the pace in which things are moving online, to think about setting that to the side for inspiration and to step out and find it, like you said, in a local coffee shop, in your backyard, in, putting some music on and getting out paints or being creative. I find when I'm in my own thoughts and my own time, reflection time, and time alone, quiet time, that's where the biggest, best ideas come from. So it's really interesting how when we can settle that and build that time into our schedules, what a gift that is.